We think the convenience store has a lot of niches. And one of the things that RTO has helped us do is try to train people so they can work in those niches.
Welcome back to Shelf Confidence, a podcast brought to you by the Pennsylvania Food Merchants Association, where we explore the people, ideas, and innovations driving the food and beverage industry. In this episode, we're talking about workforce development and the tools that make it all click. We're joined with Jeff Kahler, CEO of Ready Training Online, and Paul Rankin, Vice President of Retail Marketing at Country Fair, as well as Steve Seymor, Director of Personnel at Country Fair, for a closer look at how these organizations partnered to improve workforce development in the convenience store industry. So whether you're managing a store, running HR, or just curious about what smart training really looks like on the ground, this episode's for you. Let's dive right in. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
No problem, John. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we're really looking forward to this. Workforce development is such a big deal, and obviously, you guys are really in the thick of it, so I'm really excited to talk about this, so we're going to go ahead and dive in. So let's start with the origin story here. Jeff, what sparked the idea behind Ready Training Online? And Paul and Steve, how did you guys get connected with RTO?
The idea actually came from me wanting to share, very passionate about retail operations. I owned a pizzeria chain in Maryland. And I was actually on a plane and a screen came down and there was somebody, I don't know, CEO of American Airlines going, "You got many choices in the air and we want to thank you for flying with us." So I took that idea and actually wanted to build my own solution for just my pizzerias about telling people how proud we were that they started with us, how we wanted them to be engaged, how to make the product, so on and so forth. And me and my now business partner, George, sat in a diner for 9 hours through 4 waitresses. I actually have the napkin here in my office. And we came up with the concept. And his idea was, why are we just going to limit this to your pizzerias, right? Why would Mustang Pizza be the only place you want to do this? And so we kind of took on a mission there. We were actually sitting across from a Royal Farm store in Baltimore, Maryland. And my friend was a real estate agent for one of the people that worked there, introduced it. That was our first customer. And about 8 customers later, we ran into Country Fair at the 2010 NAC show down in Georgia.
Okay.
Went back to leadership, and I'll let them tell the rest of that story. But we engaged and kind of hit it off immediately. There was some trepidation from a lot of the compliance stuff that we did, and Paul can share that. But again, I think we've been a true partner to them with a lot of stuff that they're doing, but they can tell you more about that.
Please.
It's funny how we all started out. Steve was the one who really made contact with Jeff and RTO at the NAC show. And when we all got together to discuss the idea, John Kemp was a long-term friend of mine at Royal Farms and just gave Jeff a real thumbs up on what we were going about. And Steve evolved it with Jeff and just a whole variety of required training programs that we need to look at and bring out. Steve, some of those programs that you really got involved with were interesting.
So just a little background on us. We've always been very face-to-face training. We actually employ professional trainers here. So when a new associate comes on board, we're regional enough that we can have centralized orientation. And then every new employee is assigned a professional trainer. And the goal obviously was to create a consistent message, but we found out that different people deliver messages differently. And for some areas of our business, we just needed a really good, consistent format. And meeting RTO at NACS, especially on the legal compliance end, the tobacco regulations, the We Card program, alcohol training, harassment training, those types of training immediately went into effect with us. We knew that we needed to present a good, consistent message and that we needed to have documentation that we had gone over that training. And Jeff was the perfect partner to start up with. And then we've just evolved it from there. And gosh, if there's a type of training module now, we've got it. And we've helped develop it through RTO.
One of the things that's been exciting along with that, training to make new food products, things that we have to do in our kitchens to get those up to standards. Jeff has really been the ideal partner, being able to work with us so we go into the kitchen and actually show people making what we want. And we're able to show it to our 1,100 associates in the field. So everybody has the same training as opposed to a variant, Steve. And that's one of the things that I've been excited about, consistency across the board.
Oh, yeah, it's really exciting. I saw that on social media, some cross posting about that. I thought that was great. Great. Well, I'd love to take a little deeper dive into a little bit about you guys. So for those who don't know, tell us a little bit about Country Fair's workforce. Talk to me about your locations, how many staff, and what kinds of roles are you guys training for?
We
Yeah.
have been part of this community and what we've done for 60 years.
Mm.
And we have grown from a dairy store to a large format convenience store. And today are venturing in areas we've never been in before, like bringing fresh produce to the market, bringing meats, chicken, both on the prepared side and on the raw side. We think there's a new market that we can get into, the superette, which combines that with the convenience store, which makes us a little bit different than some of our competitors. One thing I'm real proud of, we really concentrate on the basics on breakfast. We do a great job with lunch. We're a big pizzeria out there that serves that. We serve sometimes in excess of 30 to 35,000 breakfast sandwiches on a weekly basis.
Oh boy.
And those are all require consistency in order to get them out.
Yeah, consistency is the word. For those of you that don't know about Country Fair, we're headquartered in Erie, Pennsylvania. We operate 73 stores in 3 states. Most of those are here in Pennsylvania, but we do have stores in New York and in Ohio, which from a training perspective, obviously there are variances in how you have to train folks based upon the state that they work in. We have about 1,300 on our staff at this time. We take a lot of pride in being a company that carries a fairly low turnover for our industry and high retention. And we believe that a good part of that is attributed to the really good training that we give them right up front.
Well, I think that's amazing. I'm really curious. So what kind of challenges were you guys facing before working and partnering with RTO?
Consistency, I think, is the theme.
Yeah.
Whether Paul was talking just a moment ago about the food service consistency, which we've really just started working on the past few years, but even legal compliance consistency, I think that's where it started. We
Yeah.
wanted to get compliant. We're blended. RTO is not our only format. We still have professional trainers that personally train all of our new associates in their stores. They'll be with them for 16 hours. They get a 6-hour orientation class, centralized orientation. So we are able to deliver a lot in person, and RTO just really complements that. And I think that the key word again is consistency, being able to bring a consistent message. And we'll talk a little bit later about even as a communication tool, just being able to communicate consistently through the format.
Steve, one of the things I think you have to really emphasize is the documentation that RTO brings. And so we know that Paul Rankin has been trained on this day on the cigarette compliance issues and other things. And so when we have a legal situation, we can see that that person has been trained. We have documentation for that. And it just takes it a step further. We also know when someone hasn't been trained and they've skipped out on the training. I mean, all of that's there. And that was real important because as much as we tried, we had huge inconsistencies and lack of documentation on having people trained. So we basically go a little bit overboard on that.
We do. And the cool thing is it builds right into your culture. And so, I mean,
Yeah.
we consistently have 97, 98% compliance in our training. And the reason is because our managers and our associates have bought in on how important it is. And folks get on and they know that to expect updated training on a monthly basis. And it's just an expectation that they go in and complete it. And it's just built right into our culture.
You know, one of the things that I liked about Jeff and his organization is they would do that little step beyond that you needed. And one of them we call is the round table. And the round tables where we try to get together on a monthly basis and try to talk about the marketing items, the new things that are happening. Now we have everybody, we pay them to watch all of this. We pay them to do it. But communications is really difficult in our business. We have a strong manager program. And I think when you look at our first shift and our day shifts, we communicate well. But when you get into the second and third shifts, the lack of knowledge is just out there. People just don't have the day-to-day rubbing elbows with someone who knows it and tries to promote it. So we call it our round table. It's where we get together. We have a round table right behind me. and we go ahead and shoot a video on that and send it out, and let everybody in our team have an opportunity. We give them time to learn about the new programs and what's going on.
No, I think it's great. As a video podcaster, I can appreciate sending a video around. So I definitely appreciate that. No, I joke with people all the time in marketing. It's like pictures or it didn't happen, but I guess in your space, it's documentation or it didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
They go together.
No,
hand in hand. And Jeff did a really good job of putting that together for us, or has done a great job.
Yeah, I would just say reporting. I know one of the things early on when Steve and I got together, we become the certifying body. And so when you look at just the state of New York, I mean, you think about their alcohol, tobacco, the requirements. They have ID numbers that you have for each location have to be reported. You have to have a certification on premise, at corporate, all that. We handle all that for them, soup to nuts. And so that really, in the beginning, there's always that trepidation. And I would say earning trust, everything begins with trust. That's why Ready Training is the trusted name of training. But the real thing here is that to earn their trust and respect means a lot, not only to me personally, but to the organization. And so I think that as you build on that over our 14 years together now, and really the other thing is the marketing piece. So they're branded by a certain brand, and they had some videos that need to be deployed. So it's not just our training, it's not just compliance training, it's not just roundtables, it's having that whole centralized portal to push out content and all is really, really big. So it's a great partnership.
no, I think that's great. I imagine a lot of people are using a lot of AI for a lot of tools like this these days. What's something that you guys can do that the AI is never going to understand?
I can jump into that. The worker
out there, I'm just learning how to do note taking with AI. So I'm in another world on what goes on with that. But I think there's so many things that, we want people to tell us something that's unusual. I think AI is going to do a lot of things in the functionality of things, but we still want people to think. And one of the things we try to emphasize through the RTO programs is, let's communicate back and forth how we can do something better, how we can do something that's unusual. And that's what we really get from our team in the field. A lot of suggestions on how to take our company to that next step where we need to be. So it's just not AI driven. It's still that people with that curiosity to push out to another element.
AI cannot build relationships.
It cannot.
That counts it right there, Steve.
I like it. No, that's very, very true. So Jeff, RTO is based in a small town, PA town, and obviously you guys have some big industry impact. How have you grown your company while staying close to your roots?
So I actually grew up in Middle River, Maryland, small town there, right? And then I met my wife online because I did everything else online. My daughters bought me a subscription to a dating service, and I met my wife. I moved here. My children were a little bit older, so it made more sense to me to move here with my other part of my family. And so I ended up in Elizabethtown.
Okay.
But we are community driven. I mean, where I was at before, being in pizzerias, you're serving them from birthday parties to school events to graduations to all the events, right? And you have customers that are plumbers and electricians, much like Paul and Steve have. So I understood the customer. I understood who I was selling to and who I was serving. And we're a big serving company. So we like serving our customers. And so I kind of understood that. But here, we do the local, even though we have very little touch we have a lot of customers in Pennsylvania, but in Elizabethtown, probably not so much. The big thing is that we still stay community driven. We do a lot with the food bank. We do a lot with the parades, the events that they hold here, the celebrations. We just did something for Memorial Day, but it really is staying close to your community. Again, there's a lot of people look at that and say, "Hey, they're not a customer." It doesn't really matter. We want to make sure that our goal is that no one goes to bed hungry in Elizabethtown. So that's one of our company mottos to really try to focus on our local community. And I know that Country Fair, incredible outreach.
I think that's truly amazing. In a past life, I did some work with food banks, so that touches me nicely. That's great. Yeah. So a question for you guys over at Country Fair here. So if Country Fair had its own reality show, say a mix between Survivor and the Greatest British Bake Off, wow, what would the weekly challenge be? What do you think?
One of the things we do, we've just brought a chef on board to try to get some more, just to take us to another dimension. We've always been in that C-store niche. which always has that gas station food element
Mhm.
to it. And so for us to figure out how to go to that next step, how to make a product a little bit more appealing, we're all trying to get a broader market mix that'll go into a convenience store to buy something. And think of this as a food shop out there where you can get things to take home every day. We also believe in that basic things. We're a huge contributor to the food bank, and we believe in really looking after the community. Our goal is to try to take it a step up, to have restaurant quality food in our organization that people can grab and go, they can get delivered to their house so they have it. And they think of us not only as the place where they get their gas, but where they can get some groceries as that fill in on the way home, or really at lunch and having it available all the time. It's just we're expanding our reach and trying to get a larger mix. We have to do that because we're in an area with pretty static populations. It's not growing. And so how do you get more people to go in your organization so we have good jobs for the people that work with us?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, being creative so we can get our customers sort of out of that convenience store box that that the gas station food, the convenience store look. We want to be bigger and better than that. And so just being creative, coming up with new recipes, trying to take the stuff that we currently have on our shelves to create new items. So yeah, the biggest challenge for us that we're addressing, I think, has just been how to be new and creative, and to get that across to our customers that we are not gas station food. Our food is good. I've eaten enough of it. I know.
Steve, it's all what we've done really. We just opened a new innovation center
Yes.
where we're trying to
Yeah.
bring things that we never had before. I mean, beer and wine changed our mix so much here 10 years ago and what we can do in Pennsylvania. But we've gotten into the first time, which we really have done it, having a nice mix of produce. And we're finding there's a pretty large market for that. Now, how we can take that out to our other places and make it go. We've expanded our grocery section, something that we all sort of got out of years ago, and trying to get the people so they can have an item they can pick up on the way home when they come in.
Mm.
We are just trying to explore different areas to get more people to do it. I mean, a number of years ago, we started really experimenting with eggs, of all things, and we brought in those at a very attractive price, and we've become one of the larger egg sellers in this area. But we think the convenience store has a lot of niches. And one of the things that RTO has helped us do is try to train people so they can work in those niches, and where we take it a step further. I mean, we recognize that times are changing pretty quickly, and we need to find a way to change with those times.
Oh, that makes sense. Got to innovate, right?
Yeah.
You bet.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. So I'd love to know a little bit more about the feedback you're getting from staff. I'm sure you guys have heard stories. I'm sure you guys have gotten feedback from the people that work for you. I'd love to hear some of those stories.
We've been with RTO now about 15 years. Previous to RTO, we were all pen to paper, and it was monotonous, and it was difficult, and it was unorganized, and it was just stacks and stacks and stacks of paper. So immediately, as soon as we brought RTO on board, it was a change to our culture. Our managers love it because, again, their people are getting a good and consistent message that we want them to get. It's the message that we want delivered to them. It's not something that someone interprets 3 or 4 different ways. It is one consistent message. Our compliance I probably need to find a table to knock on wood, but our compliance, I think, is an all-time high as far as compliance with alcohol and tobacco, items like that. It's
97.4 as of an hour and a half ago.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
I like it.
I got the
Big.
data to make sure I had it for you.
Yeah,
Love it.
I mean, this is big stuff for us.
Yeah.
And it's been that way now for 15 years. And I mean, it's just, our training just evolved like overnight. We went to a semi-paperless society when RTO came in, and then RTO has helped us in other ways too. For example, our policy manuals are on the RTO platform. So anytime anyone has a question, they can go right into the platform and get an answer. It's just the automation blends so well with the personal touch that we put on it. We still believe in the personal touch. We still believe in the person-to-person training. RTO just enhances it immeasurably.
One of the things that we've talked to Jeff about, and I think one of my comments when I'm out and just visiting with our team members a little bit, one of the challenges I think we both have is sort of changing the format, but meeting the documentation that Steve has. Because all of these people watch these programs sometimes consistently once a month. And so trying to doctor them up, change them, to try to keep them involved so it just isn't routine and rote. And that's one of the missions that I think as we look out over the next years going forward is providing a variety, a different way to bring out different things and to change them on a pretty consistent basis. That's the challenge that we're going to face going forward for the next phase of what we're doing.
Oh, it makes sense. You got to keep things fresh, keep people engaged. Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
So Jeff,
Right.
yeah, so you've worked with a ton of retailers, I'm sure. You can talk to me a little bit what makes the partnership with Country Fair work so well.
So yeah, and I reiterate all that they're saying, but compliance is always hard because you got to deliver it in a certain way. You can't, humor is not really allowed when you're talking about alcohol training, even though we'd love to thread it in. And so
Lame.
one shout out, Kelly, who's my producer. She was brought into RTO to take a different look, like Paul talked about, this chef and Steve, what they're doing. Let's look under the hood rather than looking on top, or let's look on the side or at a different angle. And so that's always helps us evolve. But the second thing is we have ended partnerships with companies because their commitment. And so the one thing you can say here, when you look at the North Star, Paul said it already today, and I'm a real big listener. You work with Paul. You don't work for Paul. You work with Steve. You don't work for Steve, even though they know the hierarchy and they know that they, at the end of the day, call the shots and make the decisions. When they walk into a store, and I've been in stores with them, I'm actually going to see them later this month. When they walk in, it is like someone walking in. These are not people that are like, oh my gosh, there's Paul Rankin or there's Steve Seymor. No, that's Steve. You know what I mean? And again, there's some people, I'm sure, Mr. Steve, or there's reverence there. But their North Star is their employee, which then they know, which this is always business 101, will take care of that frontline customer. We'll take care of that team, the person who walks in that wants those eggs. They cut deli meats. I mean, it's unheard of with all the safety and the pre-done. You can buy everything now pre-packed, not Country Fair. When they walk in, they think of the customer, fresh, the experience. And that's just an honor to work with somebody like that and serve them. I mean, because if not, then this isn't lip service. This is the bottom line is I've had customers that implemented our program. I already knew it wasn't going to work. We went 90 days. At the end of the 90 days, because they didn't know how to use it or they wouldn't listen, just a common sense from their team. I just said, look, it's better we don't work together because all you're going to do at the end of this is hate me. Your team's going to hate me. Everyone's going to hate me. And I don't want anybody to hate me. So let's just end this now. And if and when something changes, and these folks help me because of referrals and sending customers to them, it allows them to bring a community of, this is a blended learning experience. We are not an online training company. We have online training, but we are pro advocates of blended learning, where you meet that person that can tell you their story. The most powerful thing in most things is the testimony. You're always looking for a reference. You're always looking for that, even in faith, right? Your testimony matters because you've lived it. When you come into a store, there's a store manager that's been there, and some of their managers, just so you know, have been there 25 years. I mean, these folks are long-term employees, probably longer. They're going to go, nope, 37. They're going to know each one, right? 32, 19, 14, because they celebrate these people.
Been there a minute, yeah.
But I can tell you that when they come in and you're walking around and you say, look, the reason why we don't want water to drip here or we don't want ice out of this fountain machine is because about 2 years ago, Miss Betty came in and inadvertently something happened to where she slipped. And we never want that to happen again. Not because it's not because they're safety committee, even though that's important. Wet floor signs, mop the floor, keep it done, call maintenance, all that. It's because they care about Miss Betty or they care about that manager. And when that manager tells you that, along with a module that'll keep everybody consistent, and I have managers, I don't know if you know this, Paul and Steve. I think at store 75, there's a store manager up until about 5 years ago that would still call me on my cell phone because I went and visited every store when we rolled the program out, met every manager. And there was one that told me, I watched the thing because they also make their team, right, when they roll this out, watch every training module so that they know what the team would. That's an investment, right? You hear about, is it a cost or an investment? They invest in learning and training and developing. And that's the ideal, right? That's an incredible customer to have on your team.
Good training leads to lower turnover. There's a reason that our turnover is 1/3 of the industry average, and it's because we invest. I want to just tell one other real quick story.
Please.
Jeff gives a lot more credit. They're just a great partner. Even when they're creating modules, they'll call me or they'll call other companies and say, "Hey, give us some input on this." We did an excellent module with RTO. It's one of their standard modules for every convenience store chain. Worked on it with them on de-escalation, for example. And when they have ideas, they'll call and run it by us and run it by other customers to get feedback. They want to put the best product out there for you, and it's apparent when you see it.
With labor shortages and retail challenges, how can strong training actually become a competitive advantage in retail?
It is a competitive advantage. If you train, if your people understand the expectations, and one of the biggest reasons why people leave companies, especially new employees, is they didn't know what they were getting into. They didn't understand the expectations of the job. And so even though you start talking about those expectations way back in the application and interview process, that initial training sets the baseline for the expectation in the organization. And when people understand the expectations and they understand the mission, they're likely to stay if they can adapt to both of those.
Steve, I think just to build on a little bit of what you're talking about, our belief is if we give you sort of a step in training and we take you through a whole series of different things, you're more committed to the company as we commit resources to you to make you a shift manager, to make you an assistant manager. We need to show that progress, that you're going to be part of an organization that grows. And this is really those steps that we're committed to teach you each one along the way to make you better at your job and to make you more involved in Country Fair. And Country Fair is pretty simple. We care about the team member, number one. We want to care about the customer. We want to care about the community. And that's the lens that we have. And the first thing is to build that team member up any way we can. And we recognize if they leave us, they've gotten a lot of training they can take somewhere else. They can talk about their experience here. But people that want to stay on, we want a culture that says there's an upward path with us. You can be involved in this organization. We've all started that whole path in the convenience store industry to be part of it. And so we had to work our way up. And that's what we have here at Country Fair. We have a deal where we hire within. The number one goal we have is Country Fair cares about its team and trying to make it a great place to work, a great place to evolve. And then we've got to care about our customer. And we think if we do those two, it develops it. And third, as Jeff was saying, we're really committed to our community. We want to be considered as a community store as opposed to a chain store. That's how we try to be competitive when we're dealing with chain stores that are operated from people that really aren't around here, all around us. That's the Country Fair mission. This is something that fills in very well to that mission, to care about the team and the customer.
Well, it's great to hear. You want to always hear the companies are investing in their people, right? Because that's a reciprocal thing. You know, you invest in your people, they invest in you. So what's a real life you can't make this up moment from training or onboarding that still lives rent free in your guys' heads? I'd love to hear a story.
I don't know if any of them are appropriate.
Definitely want to hear them now.
Wow. There's a good lead in. Cut that clip out, John. There's the lead in.
I think so.
Maybe over some beers off duty someday, right? Or some beverages off duty someday. But
so can I give one from our training side? And then Steve, you can. So we had a customer that called us one time and said they had a new hire come in and the manager got called out to an emergency. And so this employee is working there, and before the manager left, They said, go face the shelves. Right now, we in retail might know what that means. Go and make all the products square and make sure they're not out of date and all of that. Well, the employee went over and faced the shelves and just stood there. So this manager that was filling in walked in, and about an hour into the shift is looking at this associate over there and said, like, what are you doing? And they were like, well, before X, Henry, Jennifer, whatever left, they said go over there and face the shelves. And so I'm here facing the shelves, and I didn't know what to do next. And so we actually made a reel about that and did it on a marketing piece on somebody that got left in the store overnight because they got told to face the shelves. But that's really like a funny that you don't know these terms. So we built what our answer was to that. We also built a training module called Talk to Talk so that you would know the convenience store terms, right? Because these are things that, you know what I mean? A cash wrap, you might not know what that means, right? What's an in stock? What does a hole in the cooler mean? These terms that, again, I never worked in convenience. I was in food service, but not that. These folks know, and what you don't understand is telling that manager's been there X 35 years for these guys, that a new hire needs to be communicated to differently because they may not know all these terms that you know instinctively.
Yeah.
It does matter. And so we try to build all of that into the learning, safety, culture, explanation of the terms, because if you don't, this person may stand there inadvertently for an hour and who knows how long more. We made a real funny of it though, where they had to use the restroom and the lights were going down and all. But to be honest, it does happen where they don't know what they're doing. And the last thing before Steve gets his in, because his might be a lot better than mine, is remember I just told you that Kelly, she has a different look. She's going to look at things differently. I brought her and still bring her to meetings that she really doesn't belong at, right? She has no business there. She's in podcasting, marketing, and all that. But I bring her in because I want a different perspective, which is what Paul and Steve are talking about. A new chef, new concept, new ideas. And the reason I did that is, and so she's sitting at this meeting. There's about 5 people from this company down in Texas, about 500 stores. And then we got our team production, coding, all that there. And Kelly's sitting on the end. And she says it all boils down to one thing. No one ever wants to feel stupid. And I was taken back. I'm like, oh, no, she shouldn't have said that. Here's a wild card. And everybody on the other team go, we never thought of it that way. And just think when you're in high school or elementary school, how you feel when somebody says, do you know what happened last night? Or do you know who won the World Series? Or whatever the thing, right? Pick your own situation. But she said, nobody wants to feel stupid. And if we can, through learning and education, training and development of people, teach them the right way to do things, hear things, see things, then we're making them better so that they don't feel out of place in a group that may have been there 5 years. And so as you come in, the goal is, and those roundtables really help because it brings Paul and Steve and team members, vendors, to their living room. And that's really what it was. So nobody wants to feel stupid has been a motto that we've done to say, let's educate these people to make sure they understand how to operate a retail location that is so complex that most people don't even understand how complex it is. I mean, grocery, fuel, people can die from fuel and people can die from food. And when you have those two things, then dairy and all that, and it's very, very dangerous, but they do a great job. So that's mine, Steve.
Well, having been to a few barbecues in the
one
South, I can
thing that sort
definitely
of
affirm that, yes.
One thing that just hits me about your whole comment, I think that's a real perfect way. You don't want to feel stupid, but I read the customer complaints, the various items that come in, and I'm always so pleased when I read that someone who started with our company has gone out, like help carry somebody's items to a car, help them pump gas, help when we had one the other day where someone ran and stopped a bus for someone who was inside and disabled and couldn't actually get in the bus. All of that's part of the culture that we talk about and trying to bring it to people. And training's one thing, but the more you emphasize it, the more you celebrate people that have done a great job in doing it, it just breeds its way within our organization. And we're going to be successful if we have a culture that cares about the customer and has a reputation of doing it, and that people have smiles. And that's really hard to have, and this sort of cell phone culture where people really don't want to talk to other people. They want to communicate with a text or something. We got to bring people out of that. And we've got to bring them so they interact. And it's a challenge every day to do it. But the more things that we can get to reinforce it and make them feel comfortable and they see other people so they don't feel stupid about doing something that's part of our culture is something we just got to strive for. And we work on it all the time. And this has been a great reinforcement for that. I mean, there's so many different methods of trying to get it. We have just really touched the surface a little bit of what we have here and what Jeff has brought to us. But I think we all in the retail business are striving to get a culture that people interact with the customer. And they aren't just used to putting something or helping them or just ringing something up. They want to go that step further that makes it feel part of a community. And RTO has worked on us with that niche. We have so many different ways we've got to continue to work on it. It's unbelievable. But we're better than what we were before. And that's what I look for in anything. If we can just get a little bit better than what we were doing before, we're going in the right direction. And it's a challenge.
Well, it's progress over perfection. I mean, that's life, right? You know, you can't be perfect.
Yeah.
You're always just trying to improve. So you're kind of teeing up my next question, which I love, is how do you keep the training fun, fresh, and engaging for frontline employees, especially the younger generation like Gen Z?
Well, how about maybe starting with having Gen Z trainers?
There you go.
People like learning from people who, look like them, act like them. We have an extremely diverse company. Our retail trainers, the in-person trainers, I believe over half of them are under the age of 30. So people get them. We have one gentleman, extremely professional, tattooed from basically head to toe. But man, you put him in the training mode and he is professional and excellent. He relays our mission. He just expounds upon everything that we want from a trainer. You have to do some things that have some humor sometimes. We try to add humor, but I think having someone that they can relate to doing their training is a big part of that.
Steve, I think one step further, I think you have to have, if I'm getting trained, I'm only as successful if I feel that I'm involved. And so you have to, and I think we try to work on it where we just call on people to ask their opinions outside the norm a lot of times. So what do you think we could do with this or that, or try to bring up what we're doing at the same time? I think particularly we came from the deal where we were told to do something. We went to training. I think we want to have a situation where we have an interaction and can explain and ask, are very open to having questions about why do you do this? I think Gen Z is much more inquisitive and much requiring interaction. In my deal, it was do it my way or the highway is sort of the way it was described. And when you were a baby boomer, that's what happened. There's somebody else waiting to take the job. Today, people want a little bit of interaction in what goes on, and they want to feel involved as opposed to just watching something. They want to have an ability to be asked something. That's what we strive to try to do, is make it so you're part of as opposed to just listening to.
I think that's really insightful. No, that's a very good we see that across everywhere with the change in generations from boomers to millennials and Gen Z. There's definitely a culture shift there, which is interesting to be aware of. No, that makes sense. So yeah, we're kind of getting to the end here, guys. I have one more question to ask you all. Unless Jeff, you had any
Before we get
stories
to that,
you wanted
John,
to chime in.
can I just
Please.
jump in there about the
Of
training?
course.
So we just redid our violence series, and we did it more in a superhero
Okay.
rather than that. So we did it all animated, all motion graphics. The whole art team got together, and we let them just go wild on this project. A very touchy subject, right? With food delivery now, there's even different angles that we didn't have, 10 years ago in convenience. And we let the team just go wild. The whole creative team, we got together. We said, this is your project. We understand reverence, respect. violence is a very serious topic, but using superheroes could change the whole dynamic. And you would have went crazy with the number of responses we got back to how cool, incredible, check this out. Wow, look at that. And so I think that as you look at ways to do it, and then back to what Paul was saying, blended learning is the only solution. The only time when you can ask someone, and there's tools to do that on the platform we're looking at and interactions and all, but that there's not an IM on the planet that'll stop that bus. That's all I'll say. There's not an instant message that'll stop that bus that Paul was talking about. Somebody physically taking action and running toward that bus to stop it for that person that needed that ride is what matters. And those are the value. And the group you're looking at right there reward that kind of behavior. They do not let it go. They do not let it go unseen or unheard. And they celebrate that until a culture, which again, my podcast, Culture of Convenience. If they're not building a culture of convenience to make that convenient to shop there and buy there, how would that person that's sitting in that wheelchair, unable to do anything, behave when they see that? Or how would they behave when they see that associate? You couldn't buy how many times they're going to tell the community about Paul and his group and Steve.
I was just thinking the same thing. It's like, that person's going to go back to their community and mention that Country Fair stopped the bus for them so they could get to the bus.
And there's story after story. I mean, again, when they were here, it's incredible the team that they have.
So my last question, gentlemen, as we wrap up our show here. So what advice would you give other retailers who know they need to bring better training but don't know where to start?
I'll start by saying, you can do an analysis and you can go out and talk to your people about what they need. You have to. There are things that you have to comply with. So you have to have your compliance training, right? And then it's going to kind of depend upon your organization. Every organization's different. We have 1,300 associates, 1,300 different sets of needs, 1,300 different sets of learning needs. We can't be everything to everybody, but we should have something for everybody, right? So to have one box training and say that's it is very, very difficult. We use lots of different methods because we have lots of different learning abilities out there. We talk to our people about what works and doesn't and try to tweak it. We try to be creative and come up with new things. We use a communication tool through RTO via the roundtable. You have to constantly play with it and constantly tweak it because it continually evolves. So whatever you're doing this year, you're not going to be doing in 2 or 3 years. You're going to be doing something different.
Steve, I think the one thing that you left out, you gotta really want to make a corporate commitment, not just to have a regulatory compliance, but you want to train. And it's a commitment. It's just not a box you check off. It's something, this is where I want to take the company that I have and what I want to do with it, and what it's going to go on. And if you don't want to commit, I think you're really wasting a lot of effort. But you got to be committed to try to do it, and you got to have an idea of where you want training to be. What's the next level? What do I want to receive from the program? Without doing that, I think this whole business, you got to have your next idea of what you want to reach and how you're going to try to get there and focus on it. And that's what we have done with RTO. Jeff became part of our family, part of our team, and his whole group did, and we were committed to go to the next step. So as we've talked about commitment, that's what it takes.
My dad always said doing nothing is doing something. So what happens is organizations that may not want to do the full thing, that may not want to, start somewhere. Again, you can of course reach out to Paul and Steve for whatever they have, but a small dose. Get your compliance taken care of. Get just alcohol in your organization. Start somewhere. Just your harassment policies. Start somewhere and then build on that. In other words, make the commitment to start somewhere, because doing nothing. But if you're not committed, do nothing. It's better to do nothing than to try something and again not be fully committed to it, because it does take a commitment of every member of the team to make sure that it's successful, and that includes management, even team members, all the way up.
That makes sense. Every big journey starts with one step, right?
Yep.
All done in a day and all that. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the show. I think this was a great conversation. Big thanks to Jeff Kahler from Ready Training Online and Paul Rankin and Steve Seymor from Country Fair for joining us today and sharing how their partnership is helping shape smarter training and stronger teams in the convenience store space. If you're interested in building your own workforce or exploring online training tools, check out RTO Online and countryfairstores.com for more information. Thanks for tuning into Shelf Confidence. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to smash that subscribe button, share, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're watching and listening today. Until next time, I'm John Zimmerman, and this is Shelf Confidence.